I absolutely love all of the eating the rich TikToks happening right now, but I'm seeing a lot of middle class things being listed, so I have a question. What's the most insane actual rich person behavior that you've experienced? Because mine is when I heard the mom of this family say, "Oh, I absolutely hate vomit. When my kids threw up on their bed or on their mattress, I just threw out the mattress and bought a whole new one." What?
So my story was when my son was doing landscaping for our neighbor who had this beautiful $1 million house, and they had just moved here from California, but he got a new job in France and they had to put their house on the market again. Well, thinking that it was going to take months to sell, it only ended up taking a week. And so they had no time to sell anything and just basically gave us the entirety of everything in their house. I mean, high-end Pottery Barn, everything, organic cotton towels and comforters, and it was just like, I was insanely blessed. But the thing that I just had a very hard time like comprehending was the fact they had this $4,000 couch system still in boxes in their garage. I mean, they had that couch in the house too, but they also had the couch in boxes in their garage. And it wasn't just that, they had other things too that still had labels on them. Like, I just couldn't understand that.
Y'all remember that video where it's like, what's the most insane actual rich person behavior you've ever experienced? I can't find it, but I have an addition. Rich people in country clubs. I don't mean like the little golf course in your neighborhood. I mean country clubs. Applications to these like really exclusive country clubs are insane. When they say it's all about who you know, it is all about who you know. There's this one club where like their old policy was that for every month you were on the waiting list, you needed a new member to handwrite you a letter. We had a friend on the waiting list for 6 years. That means he had to meet 72-ish or more members who would handwrite him letters. Another person really needed the approval of like the founder of the club, and so he had to play 9 holes of golf with him. And the secretary called like randomly one day and was like, this guy is free at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. But he's in Montana. So our friend literally flew out to Montana to play 9 holes of golf with this one guy. And when he left, the guy says, just tell people I have a favorable opinion. At a time.
I don't know if Asians should get on this trend because, like, we're crazy rich Asians on steroids. I had a family friend's daughter who got married in the 90s, and they couldn't find a big enough venue, so the guy bought a 5-acre plot in the middle of the city to host the wedding reception, and they had a 1-acre plot a few miles away for people to park in, and they had flowers fall from a helicopter. She came in a chariot, and I'm not making any of this stuff up. It was there in the papers. And when her brother got married a decade later, he had his tent set up on the Atlantis beach, and that was just one of the 5-6 events that he had, and he had a multiple day wedding in multiple countries.
My house was so big, I had to tell my dad dinner was ready by using the phone intercom system. And all of those dinners were 3-course meals prepared by a private chef. We had at least like 7 employees in the house at all times, including security guards, and my mom always was terrified that there would be an inside job and I would be kidnapped. When my parents got divorced, I had to live in 4 houses at the same time, and somehow I would get in trouble because I couldn't keep track of all my underwear. One time we took a 30-minute commercial flight from Boston to Nantucket, and my dad hated the commercial flying experience so much, despite the fact that state police officers helped us through it. He had the private plane meet us in Nantucket to bring us back to Boston. I never had to go to the grocery store as a kid. There would be a pad of paper in the kitchen. If I wrote something down, it would just appear the next day. My parents' divorce made the news, calling my mom a gold digger, and the comments were full of men counting down the years until I turned 18. I wasn't allowed to put my last name on social media because people would track me down and kidnap me.
I was taken on a first date to Paris in France, which is an 8-hour flight from where I live. So we got first class tickets there. And the hotel we stayed at was super expensive. Didn't know it at the time, had to Google it later, and had to pick up my jaw off the floor.
What's the most insane actual rich person behavior that you've experienced?
I once watched in horror as a rich Kentucky senator said that us poor people could not have the $2,000 stimulus that we desperately need to pay our bills.
So it's actually me who is the rich guy in this story. My wife and I got a smart TV, and we're setting up like our Netflix and HBO and Hulu accounts. Like we're logging in and, just setting up the TV. And we realized that we each had an HBO account. And we've been married for over 2 years. So every month, both of us were being billed $14.99 for HBO. And we're so rich that we were just like, well, I guess we got to cancel it. So, yeah.
So I was with some friends nightclub hopping after a bar crawl with a bunch of people we just met. And a couple of the girls called us over and they're like, some guy just bought a bottle at this table and he's inviting us all over. We show up to the table. It's just this one rich Japanese businessman, ton of women, and we're the only two guys out of all the people. I have a gin and tonic in my hand and he goes, "You want a drink?" Didn't want to bother this guy. So I said, "No, it's fine. I have my own drink." He looks at my drink, picks it up, goes, "This is a poor person's drink." Throws it against the wall, shatters glass, gin and tonic everywhere. 3 waitresses come out of nowhere, clean up the whole mess, and hand me my own personal bottle of champagne. It was a fun night.
What's the most insane actual rich person behavior that you've experienced?
Okay, this wasn't me. This is my roommate who worked for a lawyer. She had to drive with him one day and found out what a horrible driver he is, which was surprising to her because he leases all of his cars. And comes to find out, not only is he such a bad driver, that he has a mechanic friend on speed dial that he leaves the number on the cars that he hits and tells people to not call your insurance, just call this guy, he'll fix it, no problem, and the lawyer will pay for it. But also, when that lawyer leases those cars, there's a waiver that you can sign for $10,000. Anything that happens to the car, the dealer will cover in the time that you are leasing the car. He purchases that $10,000 waiver every time he leases a car, about once or sometimes twice a year.
So I used to work in quite a posh hotel/restaurant. It was £16 for a plate of fish and chips, stupid. But anyway, we had this table of about 20 people in from 5 p.m. till closing till 11:30, 12 o'clock, and they probably spent around £800-900. There's 20 people, £800-900, and usually you'd expect a 20% tip, but we got given £20. That's £1 per person. And so all the staff probably got around £2 each by the end of it. Insane.
So I was a pastry chef at a steakhouse, and it was basically fine dining. We made everything in-house from scratch, dressing, sauces, everything. And this couple would come in every Thursday. They had a button in the POS system so that they wouldn't have to repeat their usual order. It was a minimum $600 tab depending on the wines that they got. They did not like our house-made Thousand Isle dressing. So instead, to go with their salmon, they ordered a case of Marzetti's Thousand Isle dressing to the restaurant whenever we needed it, just so that they could have it on hand. We did not serve it to anybody else. It was just for them.
So when I was in undergrad, I was seeing this guy, and I knew he was rich, but I wasn't really sure what level of rich. We would do shit go to Balthazar without a reservation, which if you know, then you know. But I realized how insanely rich he was when I went to one of his houses and I saw a bunch of like horse stuff everywhere, like horse memorabilia. And a fun fact about me is I'm terrified of horses. I think they're the scariest animal. So I was very concerned. So I was like, oh, do you like horses? And he was like, oh no, not really. I was just going through like a rough patch a few years ago and I like coped by buying a bunch of racehorses. For reference, racehorses cost anywhere from about 40 grand to millions of dollars. And he bought them because he was sad.
So I used to work in Lovisa, the jewelry company, and there was this one customer that I attended to that still makes me go. This girl came in with two of her brothers and they all held a basket each, and she started just taking things off the shelf and putting it in her basket, like without even looking at the price tag. Now, your girl wanted to make her commission, so I went up to her and I was just like, hi, how are you doing? Can I help you out? And she was just like, yeah, I just want to know what's gonna look cute on me. Can you just show me around? And I was like, okay, sure. So I went around the store grabbing some full price and promotional items for her, and then I went back and I was like, hey, this is what I think will look really nice on you. And she went, yeah, great, just put everything in the basket without even looking at it. She spent over $3,000 in one receipt.
So I lived in Saudi Arabia for a minute, and my friend is a prince, right? And he asked me to come over to his house, literally in Castle, but it's fine. And I go over, and his front yard has like pet cheetahs, pet leopards, all that. And I literally had to be embarrassing and say, I have a cat allergy. Anyways, so I would try to go into his house, and he's like, no, that's our parking structure. Literally 4 stories high, but it's okay. And then whenever he would want to meet a famous person, he would just pay them, and they would meet him in Dubai. So...
What's the most insane actual rich person behavior that you've experienced?
Alright, so the crazy part is really at the end. But when I was in high school, I was friends with this guy that basically moved from Lithuania to America on some white Fresh Prince ability. Like, he literally grew up poor on a farm, and then his mom flew him out here, and he lived in a 4-story mansion in the Hollywood Hills, like, overnight. Anyway, we went to school together for a couple of years until he got into trouble at the public school that we went to, and he ended up going to a private school for wealthy kids. Like, he went to school with Ron Artest's son, like, wealthy. One day, he took me to one of his friends' houses, and, like, this kid was, like, 14 years old and already had a Ferrari that his dad had bought for him for when he gets his driver's license. They had a basketball court in the garage, full-size basketball court. Like, this is not Ron Artest. This is a totally different kid. When I realized that my friend, the richest person that I had ever known, was the poorest kid at that school because everyone else there had their own private jet in their family, yeah, eat the rich.